This is 3.5 hour film. Watching 3.5 hour Martin Scorsese's film in a theater for any movie buff is great experience. Killers of the Flower Moon begins in the darkness of an Osage tribal ceremony. White American settlers have driven the Osage from Kansas into what is now northeastern Oklahoma, an act of displacement that they commemorate by burying a peace pipe. We see the oil bubbling up in the prairie early on. As the oil begins to gurgle and then to gush, it splatters a half dozen Osage men who have started to dance ecstatically at the discovery, their bodies slicked with petroleum. Before we go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Killers of the Flower Moon is a 2023 American epic crime drama film directed by Martin Scorsese, who shares screenplay credit with Eric Roth. Has given this story both scale and intimacy. This film is an adaptation of a 2017 non-fiction book, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI, by American journalist David Grann. This book focuses on members of the Osage Indian Nation in Oklahoma who in the 1920s were some of the richest people in terms of per capita in the world thanks to oil found beneath their land. From living in mansions and being driven in chauffeured cars to sending their children to the best schools in Europe, they lived a life of luxury on land given to them by Thomas Jefferson in the 1700s and once deemed worthless. Convinced that Osage didn't know how to properly handle their newfound wealth, a guardian program was established consisting entirely of white Oklahomans. And even the smallest purchase, like toothpaste, were monitored and required approval. The FBI was in its infancy, but since anyone who investigated the murders was killed themselves, a young J. Edgar Hoover took up the case and it became the organization's first major murder investigation. Hoover created an undercover team including Texas Ranger Tom White and one of the few first American agents in the Bureau to track down the killers and bring them to justice. This book is available on Amazon. You get the link in description below. Film is to illuminate a far-reaching conspiracy from the inside, to give cinematic force and emotional weight to brutal history of Native American genocide. The film's protagonist, Ernest Burkhard, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, it is the sixth feature film collaboration between Scorsese and DiCaprio. Ernest is an ambitious but also submissive and inadequate man, greedy, stupid, a man from nowhere. He arrives in Fairfax, Oklahoma, soon after his discharge from military service in the First World War. He wants to make money, but he doesn't have any special skill. In the army, he is serving as a cook. He saw no combat, but merely its results. He comes in with the expectation that his uncle William Hale, a local big shot, will find him work. William Hale, played by Robert De Niro, and it is the 10th feature film collaboration with Scorsese. William is a wealthy rancher, treated by the Osage as a white grandee, but in reality he is con man, a respectable predator. He called himself King of the Osage Hill, or Friend of the Osage Community. He speaks their language. He wants Ernest to marry an Osage woman and then to help do away with her relatives and ultimately with her in order to inherit their oil money. Ernest loves young Osage woman named Molly Kyle, played by the beautiful Lily Gladstone. Compared to Leo and De Niro, she is relatively new face, but gives a memorable performance. Her smile, her watchful eyes, and colorful blanket that she wraps over her shoulders. When Ernest starts chauffeuring her around town, Molly is guarded but receptive to his flirtations. She knows that this coyote wants her money, but she also senses and returns his very real ardor and affection. The relationship between Molly and Ernest is kind of spiritual, but they are part of context of betrayal and violence. She is diabetic. Her health soon starts to deteriorate, but meanwhile, she is shaken by the unexplained deaths of so many members of her Osage community. She is disturbed by mysterious illness which have been killing off Osage people one by one. Her mother, sisters, brother-in-law, cousin, her entire family murdered or poisoned or mysteriously succumbed to death one by one. Utter indifference of local law enforcement, entirely white run. In desperation, she travels to Washington DC to seek federal involvement, which ultimately arrives in the person of Tom White, an agent from the forerunner of the FBI, the Bureau of Investigation. It's not only about the murders and FBI investigation. Much exploration about Osage people, their culture, historical details, their bonding. By the 1920s, Osage Reservation was booming town where Osage women and men live in mansions, own expensive automobiles, and wear a mix of traditional tribal garb and modern dress. Some also employ white servants. The extravagance of their lifestyle inspires much public curiosity, something director conveys through black and white mock newsreel footage. When Ernest is first being taken to Hill's house, he asks the Osage driver Henry Rohn whose land this is. Henry's answer is my land. Echoes what Molly says when Ernest asks her what color her skin is, my color. They aware they are sovereign. The history emerges through the movies in different narrative forms, including in Hale's descriptions of the Osage, via an illustrated book, during a tribal meeting, and on a radio program. Ernest is involved in all sorts of dirty business, stealing, arranging the murders of innocents. He keeps his mouth shut in order to cover up a vast criminal conspiracy. Ernest's actions are gangster-like, yet Ernest is not presented as a violent man. He is moral idiot man-child who will do whatever his king uncle tells him to do without questioning. But he is also a devoted husband who cherishes his family. After marriage, he moves into Molly's house, where she lives with her ailing mother Lizzie and her sister Anna. DiCaprio and Gladstone work beautifully together. Their performance styles are in contrast. Ernest is physically demonstrative, always blabbering, shouting, and energetic, while Molly is reserved, quiet, calm, and composed, with humor and unshakable strength. Emotional and psychological ambiguity at the heart of Ernest and Molly's marriage, a parasitic bond. Film's heart lies in love between the Ernest and Molly. They trust each other, but then came the betrayal, and this is brutal. It's always the money. Love is weapon here. While in jail, De Niro said to Ernest, I love you, son. His last weapon, but didn't work. Most of the Osage deaths, we are told, were never investigated, suggesting breathtaking level of official corruption at a time of already rampant lawlessness. But the big picture is always distressingly clear. White people are killing indigenous people for their head rights, their legal claims to this oil-rich land, and they are doing so with strategic patience, chilling ruthlessness, and utter impunity. Flower Moon represents hope and prosperity, but greed destroyed it. This is the story of love, greed, murder, and unspeakable betrayal. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and share this video and do subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to click the bell icon.